Oh, but how did Bob meet Jane? Like that all of a sudden, where did
Mm.
she come from and what's her backstory or whatever the case may be. So is that is that a useful analogy, the sort of in a movie somehow?
Look, it is, and I think for writers, and actually writers I work with kind of two tend to fall into two camps, and one is
Mm,
that they do play in a movie, and the one is that they don't necessarily. So
right.
I talk about the ones that they don't first, sometimes, and the ones that don't sometimes kind of ignore because they have not seeing it in their head, they ignore kind of important things like setting and where people are. And sometimes when they're not, and I might just ask a question like, what is it, a stinking hot day or is it the freezing cold night? Where are we? They can be a little bit disembodied when they're just thinking,
Ah,
if they're not thinking that in a movie.
yeah.
Those that are thinking in a movie, and so, so I have helped writers, like, there's a few writers I've worked with and I just keep saying, watch the movie in your head first, then write it, and see,
Great
and that can be
advice.
really helpful. Some people watch the inner movie so closely they give way too much detail, but that's fine
Ah,
because it's easy to, it's good. You can put all that detail down and then you can strip that out later. So this is all the fine line. It's that great question of you don't want the narrator popping in too closely and sort of saying, look at this and join all these dots and everything. And did you notice that over there? Did you see how she smiled? It was a happy smile. If the
yeah.
narrator's in there all the time telling you where to look everywhere, everywhere, it's kind of slightly exhausting for the reader, but also not very enjoyable because the reader doesn't get to do any work,
Yeah.
because they're not able to play their own little inner movie. Do you know what I mean? So it's always
Yeah,
about the
yeah, yeah.
balance of not too much and not too little. And it
Hmm.
takes, it takes a while. And that's why people, that's why people have beta readers, they get people to read, things like, either friends or colleagues or, you know, come for an appraisal or just an early draft because someone's written something, then I'm reading it, and I have sort of two hats. I'm just reading it like the reader. So I'm a visual reader. Like I'm also I do vocalize in my head, so I read all the words out loud. Not everyone does that. I mean, my mum.
Wow, wow, okay.
That's just how I read. That's probably why I'm
Yeah,
a good editor. I'm a slow reader and a close reader. So I hear all the dialogue or whatever, and I kind of, I think we all imagine when we're
yeah.
reading a book, we see it. And it might not be exactly like what the writer sees, but we see something. And so I'm reading away, and then it's something I suddenly go, wait a minute, weren't they weren't they standing in the driveway? And now they're in the house.